Now it's time for tip-episodes with quick tips you should know. Techniques you can implement into your workflow right here on A Tale, oh yeah, A Tale of Two Hygienists.
Listeners, welcome into this week's tip episode. I'm really excited. Joined today by Janelle, and we have a special topic. If you've looked at the title of this episode, I think that's going to make sense about what we're going to be talking about. Before we get into that, though, Janelle, do you mind just giving our listeners a little bit of background about who you are?
Sure. My name is Janelle. I'm a hygienist in Springfield, Missouri. I've been a hygienist since 2009. I've also been working as a professional educator since 2016. I do professional education for Waterpik and for Arm& Hammer and TheraBreath. And we talk about all those great products all the time and meet all kinds of dental professionals doing it.
Okay, let me ask you this question before we get like really into the weeds of what we want to talk about today. Okay, 2009 is when you graduated, you said?
Yes.
Do you feel like you are a veteran, like in the middle of your career, kind of in the beginning of your career still?
Well, I was not a spring chicken when I went to hygiene school. So when I graduated from hygiene school, I think I just turned 43. So, and that was 15 years ago. So I'm a little bit older than that now. So I feel like I'm a veteran kind of, inching towards the end of the clinical career, but
Yeah.
I'll still work. I'm going to be working for a long time, educating for sure, and hopefully keeping my clinical skills where they are.
It's interesting. So you and I graduated at the same time, and I get asked this question quite a bit. And that's the reason why I wanted to get like someone else's perspective of it. Because I'm like, I still feel just like you, like I'm a veteran. I know some stuff. I've been around for, quite some years, but man,
Right.
there's still so much to know. There's so much to learn, and there's so much to go on about. And so anyways, I've always
For
wanted to ask someone else's perspective.
for sure. And things are always changing, so you kind of
Mhm.
got to stay on top of it.
Okay, last little like sidebar question because I think the listeners are always wondering about this. Like, so how did you get into the education sphere of like this role from clinical?
So I just kind of say I was in the right place at the right time. I had Carol Jean, who is the founder of the Waterpik education program, the Lunch and Learn program, had posted on a Facebook dental hygiene page that they were looking for educators in a couple areas in the country, not my area. And so I just asked, I said, "Hey, are you looking for anybody in Springfield, Missouri?" And she said, "Well, not right now, but send me your resume." I was like, "Okay." So, well, I hadn't gotten around to doing that yet. And, I was probably procrastinating. And one of my old instructors, actually, she was the director of the dental hygiene program when I graduated. She texted me and said, "Hey, somebody with Waterpik texted me that they're looking for an educator in Springfield." And she said, "I don't want to do it. I'm retired, but I thought about you." And I was like, "Oh, I need to send my resume in." so so I did, and yeah, here I am 8 years later,
And
still
that's how
still
you
doing
got it.
it.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, it's a leap of faith sometimes. I think that listeners out there, if you're curious about taking on like an additional role or something like that, we're going to put Janelle's contact information in the show notes a little bit later. I think that she would be a really good resource if you want to just kind of talk a little bit more about like what that could look like, because I feel like there's a lot of people out there who don't want to leave the chair, but they want to know like kind of what else is out there. And I think that you'd be a great resource. But we do need to get onto the topic today. And the topic today is really kind of this idea, this mentality that we have that it is either the really expensive electric toothbrush or it's the manual toothbrush and there's nothing in between. And so I want to talk about, as we're counseling our patients to brush and floss, we know that manual brushing just isn't cutting it. And we have so many patients that appear in the chair and they swear up and down that they're doing all of the things. And it's just like, okay, at a certain point, it's not just you, like that you need extra help. What do we tell those patients that also at the same time, either because of what's going on with them financially or a choice that they don't want to invest in like a more expensive electric brush?
Absolutely. I always say that there's a lot of patients that would benefit. I think everybody would benefit from a power toothbrush, but a lot of patients are unwilling or unable to spend $100 to $300 on an electric toothbrush,
Mhm.
and for a variety of reasons that may be. But there are other options out there, and what I consider to be one of the best ones is our spin brushes.
Let's talk a little bit more about like I guess the efficacy, right? So when you say the spin brush, you're talking about like a battery operated spin brush. Is that kind of how that is?
Yeah, our spin brushes are battery operated. They have replaceable heads, so you can replace the heads on them, and they are going to remove way more plaque than a manual toothbrush. They've been shown to remove about 70% more plaque than a manual toothbrush. But they're super accessible to people. They're just available in the stores and very budget friendly. Anywhere from $8 to $12, depending on where you live.
Yeah, I think that's pretty affordable. I mean, it's a couple of coffees. Like that's how much it is. So, well, I think one of the things too, we talked about this a little bit before we started, but I feel like one of the barriers that patients always have though too is we live in this world nowadays where everything is electronics and app based stuff, right? It's so easy to buy things on Amazon or your other Amazon like store of your choice that there really should, like, this is helping to remove yet another barrier. If you don't, I live out in kind of not rural Florida, but I live out a ways of Florida. There's a Publix right here. There's not a whole lot else around, a little bit further out, right? They don't really have a
Right.
lot of other options, and something like this would be really, really easy. Can we talk about the mechanics of it though? Because I feel like some people are in the camp of you can only have kind of like that up and down motion.
Right. So the spin brushes have two different moving parts, and the top part of them spins, and the bottom part is a moving up and down. So you kind of get a lot of different action with them. We also have some with a more compact head. They're kind of aimed at teens and tweens, but they are a great option for people that like a compact head in their toothbrush. But they don't have, all the same action, but they are very effective at removing more plaque, which is
Yeah.
kind of that's the end game, right?
Yeah, exactly. What about kiddos? Because sometimes you need like a little extra help with the kiddos.
Absolutely. So we make a kid spin brush, as well as we have one that's aimed at teens and tweens. And the kid spin brushes are super cute. They have different types of cartoon characters and such on them. It's actually been shown that kids will brush longer with a spin brush than they do with a manual toothbrush. So that is, that's everything, is to get them to brush for a while and not just.
I think one of the options that I don't think a lot of offices think about. We often give away manual toothbrushes like in our offices, right? Have you ever heard of some offices being like, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna go ahead and give these battery operated ones, the spin brushes, away."
Oh, absolutely. There's a kids dental that is kind of income based, and they actually wrote a grant and were able to purchase spin brushes. They see, kids from, little bitty up to 18, and they
Mhm.
were getting a combination of adult and kid spin brushes that they were going to give out to their patients because it's more effective. And, like I said, kids are going to brush longer with them. So anything you can do to make that better.
Do you feel like that's kind of like your first car, right? It's your training wheels car, right? Until you graduate up and then can afford the kind of the nicer, more beneficial ones.
Sure. I mean, you can look at it that way. Although some people, will love them and will use them forever versus, even if they can afford the other ones, they're not going to. So it can be like training wheels, but I think it's also just a good choice for people to have, and make their oral health better in a easy way.
Tell me more. Like we kind of hit the younger populations and like the adult population. Tell me a bit more about like the aging populations and maybe like long term care facilities. Is the handle good enough for them? Is the ergonomics good?
Oh, absolutely. They're going to be have a wider handle than a traditional manual toothbrush. So, and in general, that's easier to grip for people who have, maybe arthritis, who are older. And then, the great thing for people that are in nursing homes or long-term care facilities, and sometimes things have a tendency to walk off. So, if it does walk off, you're not walking, you're not losing a very expensive electric toothbrush. It's fairly easy to replace for, again, in that $8 to $12 range.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well, I mean, listeners, I know this is kind of like a quick and dirty. Here's some information really quick about another option for you all. If you want to find out more information, you can go to oralcarepro.com. They have lots of resources there for you to look at. I think trying to be innovative, trying to be fun, trying to figure out a way to include your patients in this mid-tier option, I think is a really smart idea. Remember, our bigger picture is about patient health, patient outcome. So Janelle, thank you so much for being here. If someone wanted to reach out to you, if they have questions for you, where can they find you?
So they can email me. My email address is janellerdh@aol.com. They also can get a lot of information on oralcarepro.com. And if they want to learn even more about our whole Church and Dwight family of products, they can request a lunch and learn. We have lunch and learns for a lot of our products, but one that we do for Arm & Hammer toothpaste, we include spin brushes, and you get samples of spin brushes and lots of goodies with it as well.
This isn't even like fluff. You guys do among the best programs for lunch and learns across all of dentistry. So listeners, seriously, take her up on that option. All right, Janelle, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
A tale of two hygienists.